Brad Dunn, how you doing?
Pleasure to be here, George.
Now, Brad, you got to straighten me out. Your daddy was Doug Dunn's brother.
Exactly.
Is that right? Tell
Yes,
the
sir.
story.
My father was Duck's older brother, and they both got started in the music business. As you know, first it started out with Duck playing in a band called the Royal Spades, which turned into the
That's right,
Marquees.
yeah.
And at that time, my father came out of the Marines, went to work for a company called King Records. King Records being located here in Memphis.
On Union Avenue, I remember exactly where it was. Sid Nathan, I don't know if he even owned it or not.
Yeah, Sid Nathan owned it up to 1968.
Yeah.
And so at that time, they definitely had to have someone to be able to help the artists like James Brown, Little Willie John, to be escorted, promoted during the racial tension years.
Sure.
Back then.
King was a hot label.
Yeah, King was, yeah.
The Midnighters were on there.
Hank Ballard and the Midnighters.
Not Barbara Brown, but they had a lot of big hits.
Yeah, Bill Doggett. Yeah, it's just a
Honky Tonk Party. I used to use that as a theme song.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, killer. Yeah, so on my birth certificate, it says, father's place of employment, King Records. So I kind of got born into this, and people always ask you, but always for me and my whole family, it's always been one of these situations where, I think everyone that's grown up has at least picked the bass up one time and tried to play it. But we've all taken a shot at it, but yeah, Doug definitely hit some pinnacles that, Lifetime Achievement Awards, from the Grammys, into selling records, playing over 600 million copies.
Brad, I did, for your information, you probably know, I did the very last interview with Doug Dunn that he ever did. And I sent it to June, his wife, down in Florida, and I still have it in my home, and I'm keeping this for posterity's sake, But anyway, now, Onyx, I know where Onyx was. It was off of Lamar and Airways, or somewhere there, behind a restaurant. There used to be an Italian restaurant there.
Yeah, it was Garzani's, yes.
And Onyx was a studio, and then Chips and Donald Cruz, who was the co-writers, they got together and they needed a second studio because they were getting crowded. So they bought Onyx, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And then, well, who ran Onyx?
At the time before that, it looked like that Atlantic Records and Fantasy had dealings with putting the deal together.
I got you.
And they had put on different contracts. They were using Memphis sounds at the time. But the growth, the overflow, like you said, of American North, they just could not do all the production and everything they did. Like Glenn Spring did most of the string arrangements. When we started on the restoration, David Gicking, who bought in, and actually this could not have been done without David Gicking coming in, a partner in the studios, felt the same way. So we invited Don Cruz and his son Eric Cruz to come over when we started on the restoration of the building.
I bet he got a kick out of it, didn't he?
He sure did. It was like walking back in time for him.
Now, Brad, you mentioned, excuse me, but you mentioned Glenn Spring. Now, Elvis cut a song called Kentucky Rain at American North, and as I recall, Glenn went over to Onyx and did what they call the sweetening, added the strings and horns and stuff like that.
That is correct.
I didn't even know that. And that's one of Elvis' biggest records, Kentucky Rain.
Yes, it is. And those are some of the things people ask us all the time. When the studio was built, there's always been that shadow of the background that it was built for Elvis to be able to use close to his home.
Yeah.
And as we all know, Elvis was such a busy man, and I'm sure you could elaborate much more on that.
Brad, don't let me interrupt you, but I want to get to this poster in just a sec.
Yes.
But if anybody wants to cut a session now, what do you call it Onyx? You call it American? What do you call it?
Well, we have it as American East Studio.
American East, I like
American East Studio.
But it's open for rentals and people can come in and cut sessions.
Yes, they can.
Well, that's great. But I remember T.G. Shepard was over there, so he got discovered and a lot of other. But now this is not Chip's Moment at the control board, but that's Chip's Moment, Donald Cruz. They were co-owners originally, right?
Yes.
And then that's Tommy Cogbill, one of the greatest bass players that ever lived.
Absolutely.
And that's the band, Chip's band, Reggie Young and all the guys, Bobby.
Memphis Boys, 827 Thomas Street Boys, yes.
Yeah, this poster is a collector's item.
Yes, it is, and I'm going to definitely leave it there for you because
Oh, man, yeah.
So that's something I'd like to leave behind because this poster really dispels so many of the myths about
Yeah.
the studio. And we really, one of the things we're trying to do is with what your show does, and which is just incredible. We enjoy watching it every time it airs.
Thanks a lot, Brett. I appreciate it.
But it's preserving the past Memphis music history is so important because in 1970 it was a $100 million a year industry.
Yeah.
And Memphis is definitely on the cusp of re-bringing it all back. And that's with all the other studios, other people that are in the industry. I think that if everyone starts to work together like they did in the old days, where you had even American artists going over to Royal, Royal going to Stax, Stax going to American, those kind of things have to happen again.
Well, Memphis was cooking back then, Brad. All the stars were coming in to record here, like Herbie O'Mell, who co-produces this show.
Yes.
He had a nightclub called TJ's, and we'd take the stars like Pet Clark and Neil Diamond over to hear Ronnie Millsap. He was the house band. Man, Memphis was cooking back. But I'm going to tell you, we could do an hour with you, Guy. Tell your dad, Bob, we said hello, okay?
I certainly will.
Brad Dunn from American
Recording Studios.
East.
East.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
George Klein, Memphis Sounds.